Ah yes, the genre of horror. From books, movies, to video games, for the most part, horror works. That of course is not the case for anime. It is so hard to find a good adaptation of horror manga or light novels. Unlike movies or video games, they fail to stick with you, or even give you the slightest feeling of fear. But why is that? For starters, there are different types of horror, and some aspects of it can be found mixed in with other shows as a subgenre. An iconic scene like in episode 1 of Attack on Titan, which uses gore to induce horror, is one that easily comes to mind. Despite that the majority of horror in anime relies on gore as the main approach to display horror, which let's be honest ends up looking so unserious, anime whose main genre of horror has always just failed to induce any type of fear or discomfort for me. And I think that comes down to the biggest issue of horror anime: the art style and the animation. The perfect example of this is any work done by Junji Ito. Despite the countless time his work has been adapted, it never gives you that unsettling feeling you get from the manga. For example, one of the most iconic stories he has ever made, Tomie, was adapted in 2018 as part of the Junji Ito Collection series. It was also adapted recently in 2023, being part of the Junji Ito Maniac Japanese Tales of the Macabre series on Netflix. Both ended up being subpar adaptations when compared to the manga. Simply because of how complex and complicated his drawings are in the manga, it is so time consuming and hard for it to be properly animated. We know how expensive animation is, and unless some animation company is willing to invest heavily in a project like this, no animator will have the necessary time and resources to do so. Junji Ito's horror is so good because of the art, but his ability to draw these uncomfortable panels and conveying fear from things you never thought were possible, like spirals in Uzumaki, or even making balloons into a horror piece in the Hanging Balloons. I mean, look at this scene of the hanging balloons in anime form compared to the manga panel. As much as I love Junji Ito's work to the point where I have personally gone out of my way to get as much of his works in physical form, I don't think we will ever get a good adaptation of anything he has ever made. Some fans like me were excited with the recent Uzumaki adaptation on Adult Swim, with how great the first episode was, and then it just completely started falling apart in the next episode, but a complete disaster in the second half. It's not just the works of Junji Ito, any horror anime never seems to induce any sort of fear simply due to how it looks. The way characters are designed with how horror is displayed doesn't hit the mark. Everything seems just too polished. Even the ambience and music sometimes is not enough to help the audience get immersed in the story. Let's look at one of my all-time favorite cartoons from my childhood.
We interrupt this program to bring you
Courage the Cowardly Dog, in which perfectly executes that immersion that anime lacks by making the audience feel this eerie and uncomfortable feeling while watching the show. Take a look at the King Ramses Curse episode, especially this scene. Everything about it, from the ambience, music, and the voice direction, and the unpolished CGI, makes you feel uncomfortable. Not just as a kid, but even as an adult today. I think for horror to work in anime, we need to move away from the classical gore horror and look at something that seems to somewhat work in this genre, and that is psychological horror. Two that always comes to my mind is Magnetic Rose from the anthology film Memories and the movie Perfect Blue. These are ones that I have truly felt something horror related while watching, and why they have become some of my all-time favorite works of fiction. In Magnetic Rose, as the character walks through this abandoned mansion, you get that feeling of something being wrong and not knowing what that is. The silence mixed in with the scenery, and the music leaves you at the edge of your seat. In Perfect Blue, the stalker character portrayal alone just leaves you uncomfortable, as well as when we progress more into the story, we see how Mima's mental health starts to decline, which leads to psychosis, leaving you, the audience, wondering if these uncomfortable scenes that are happening are actually real or just a hallucination of hers. The Summer Hikaru Died is a more recent anime which has done Lovecraftian horror pretty well. The whole vibe of the show, along with the sounds and the cinematic cuts that makes the viewer feel uneasy, is perfectly done. The show has you wondering what has taken over Hikaru's body and what is going on in this town. Perhaps there is one anime out there that I have not yet encountered that does actually make me scared. It's just so unfortunate that every time there's a new horror anime, it just ends up being a disappointment, and I wish this genre was possible in anime form. There are so many mangas out there that are incredible horror stories. Thankfully, the Summer Hikaru Died has given me a little bit of hope for the genre, but only time will tell if this is the start of good horror anime. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if I missed anything that you think is an important factor on horror anime not working, let me know. Thank you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.